Hey all, welcome to the podcast, Why Are You Sober? I'm Sam, a sober addict and the host, and I'm so glad you're here as always. Why Are You Sober is a place where sober addicts come to share their stories of addiction, where it led them, how they got sober, and then why they continue to choose sobriety today. The goal is to spread some experience, strength, and hope to others, and particularly those who might be suffering. If you are a sober addict, I would welcome you to come and share your story. You never know who might be listening and who your story might help. Or if someone is struggling with addiction and needs some help or has some questions, please feel free to reach out. You can reach me through my website, whyareyousober.org, or my email address, which is sam@whyareyousober.org. Or as always, you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. So with that, last week we heard from my friend Amanda, and I am so glad that she came and shared her story. It can be a bit intense, but it's true. And I am so glad that she was the leader of the first meeting I ever went to, and I'm so glad that we have continued to stay friends. And that is just one of the most amazing things about sobriety, is just the community and connection and people and love and joy and all the awesome things that I keep trying to spread out there to everybody. So this week we're going to listen to my friend Jessica. Jessica also came from my original home group down in Florida. She's super awesome. And her story can be a bit intense also. But Jessica is one of those people who has an amazing spirit, an amazing ability to persevere. And she is just such a joy to be around and such an inspiration to me about how to just keep going sometimes when things get hard. So with that, I hope you enjoy Jessica's story. And right now we'll do the serenity prayer. Good and gracious friend, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen.
Pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing well. It was really cool because I remember I was like, oh my gosh, we actually talked like about a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a little while.
Do you
I
know?
was
But I
really,
mean, I've talked to you more than I've talked to anybody else that I've been talking to. So that's been
yeah,
great.
it's been a while. I was definitely going through it
Yeah.
um, at the time for sure.
Yeah. So, well, thank you for being a part and being willing to do this, and um, yeah, and for helping me out. It's super helpful.
Yeah.
Because what I'm trying to do here is I am looking to start a podcast of basically a collection, hopefully a very big library of varying addict stories about their addiction, where it led them, how they got sober, and then why they're still sober today. And I'm
Mhm.
hopefully going to put out there some experience, strength, and hope for others, as we all do. Because I was like, you know what? This is some pretty good 12th step work for all of us to be a part of. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. Actually, I just started listening to a podcast that more on about Al-Anon. So I was on Spotify and I came across a podcast, and she sometimes brings people on that's like in recovery and stuff, and it's cool, and I like most of the messages. There's some stuff though that I'm like, I don't know, but we can talk about that like another time. But
Yeah. No,
no,
absolutely.
I think it is needed for sure. And wherever you get it going and published, I mean, I think you'll find a following for sure.
Thanks. Well, yeah, I'm just hoping that, like I said, it just is out there to help people.
Yeah.
Cause going through COVID, I was really, really thinking through like how and what can I do more out, because I was, everyone was in isolation, and it was like, what can we do more to help people? So, I finally came across this idea, and I was like, this could be fun. So anyways, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for being here. Thank you for willing to do this. So Jessica, if you don't mind starting, what is your addiction?
So what got me into recovery is it was alcohol.
Hmm.
But I mean, prior to that, I mean, I've done dry goods and all the not all the other things, but a lot of all the other things.
Yeah.
um, but what got me into the rooms was my drinking. for sure.
Okay. And so when do you feel like your addiction began?
Well, that's a great question because so when it kicked off, right? Because I was a cucumber, right, before I got pickled.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah,
but
I love that. I love
but
that. I love that illustration. That was good.
when you look back and stuff, the isms were probably already there,
Mm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, but society makes it hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because to me, I didn't think that I had a problem. Um, I thought that I drank like everybody else. I thought that I drank like all the kids in college. I thought like that I drank and did all the things that people my age did. Um, it was the behaviors and the emotional like that got to be too much. I started becoming really violent, and just downright nasty and doing things that was going to lead me to jails, institutions, or death.
Mm-hmm.
So I pretty much I got scared of myself. Other people became scared of me. I became scared of me.
And how old
Um,
were you about this?
Uh, so when all that happened, that was at the beginning of my. I would say 29 into 30, things really started to go downhill. But
Okay.
when I reflect back, I mean, it was always alcoholically the things that I did. I always wanted more. I never
Yeah.
wanted the party. I never wanted the fun or the party to end. I was always the last one up most of the time. If I got sick and hung out with the porcelain gods, I either passed out there or it just made room for more.
Yeah.
Um, but I didn't think anything was wrong with me. Things were wrong with everyone else. But then when it just it got to the point though that I just didn't act right.
Mm.
I didn't act right. And I could see that. And then so I mean I can tell you my last day of drinking,
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know.
if you want to.
So it was September 28th of 2013. I thought it was a good idea to go to like a pregame for football. I don't even like football. Um,
Yeah, but there was
so
drinking. So I would
yes,
like football too. I hate football, but I like football because it's drinking.
right. And I had to work that day. So it was an afternoon game, so it was a morning pregame. So I've drank and I've done things at other jobs and whatever before, so no big deal. You can have a few and then go to work. No one knows the wiser. Well, I didn't have a few. I had like six, and I drank one on the way. I went to a gas station, got a bottle of Febreze, a pack of cigarettes, a Monster Rehab, and a pack of gum, and then I went to work. And when I got out of work, I went to the bar to try to get my boyfriend at the time to come out of the bar. Well, he's scared of me, right? Because I was this jealous, vindictive, crazy person. So he was scared to come out of the bar because I was upset with him. I was upset with him that he was at the bar, right?
Yeah.
So, and he's in there with this other girl that I don't like, and all this stuff. And so I go into the bar, and the owner tells me I'm not allowed in there because in August, August 22nd, it's funny how I remember these dates, but they're catalysts to my life now. But I got in an altercation and broke a lot of dishes the month prior. And so I was banned from the establishment. And it sounds silly, but like that bruised my ego like so much. I've never been banned from a bar before. I was banned from Walmart as a teenager for shoplifting, but like I never, which I was addicted to that, right? That's why I say like the addiction, it showed itself when you look back kind of like early on, right? I was addicted to
Oh
shoplifting, the
yeah, exact.
adrenaline you
Oh yeah.
got to
Oh yeah.
getting away with it, getting away with anything. So, but anyways, so I sat in my car for 3 hours. I was terrified. Like, I wanted to go in. I was trying to contemplate how I could get into the bar. I thought about putting my car through the front doors because how dare they tell me I can't come in here. I'm messaging the boyfriend. I'm sure I sounded like a crazy person trying to lure him out.
Oh, of course.
Um, I waited there until almost 3 in the morning for them to walk out. I was going to put my hands on him and that girl. Um, so finally I saw on Facebook that my ex who broke up with me on my 29th birthday, who it was his fault that I was this mess that I was now, right?
Of course, yes.
Um,
Always the other
and
person's fault, not mine.
yeah, right. Had he not dumped me on my birthday, we wouldn't be there, right? We wouldn't be this hot disaster. Anyways, so I see that he's sober, and I have other issues than alcoholism, like codependency, relationship jumping, all of that, right? So I reach out to the ex-boyfriend, and that's how I ended up in Alcoholics Anonymous, and I tried, that relationship, like we tried, it wasn't the same, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
we were together as drinkers, so trying to whatever, and it didn't work out, so whatever. But I've stayed, so it doesn't really matter that my motives weren't necessarily pure in the moment, but I got to where I needed to be, and I've stayed there since September 29th of 2013.
That's awesome. Congratulations. So 9 years now.
Thanks. Yes, I just got 9 years.
And so what did sobriety bring into your life? Like when you started in sobriety, how like what happened? Like how did your life change?
Uh, well, so when I first got to AA, like I don't remember the words and I don't remember the page, but I remember like the tears so heavy, um, and like the stare like through the floor, like to the other side of the earth. And I don't know what they were saying, but it struck me, and like my hand shot up and it just came out of my mouth, like if I don't get help, I'm gonna kill somebody or kill myself, and then like all these, because it was just full of old timers, and like I felt like I belonged. I felt like I was at home. I was also terrified because I didn't know anything about being sober or recovery. All I knew is that I was desperate to not feel the way that I was feeling, and I needed help, um and I didn't necessarily know that that meant not drinking ever again, um or anything like that, because my motives weren't necessarily the purest. Getting into the rooms, but the longer I stayed, 'cause it was painful. Like the first, I don't even know, like the first several months, because I had obsessive thinking.
Hmm.
What is what is, my ex doing? And I'm on Facebook, and I'm seeing him at the bar with the girls, and, like I was crazy. I was still crazy.
Yeah.
Um, but like they told me that I never had to feel the way that I felt ever again, and all I needed to do was not drink for that day, and come back tomorrow. And this lady, she gave me a big book, and I was like, I don't have any money, and she's like, just bring it back tomorrow. And I was like, later on, I'm like, it was a setup,
Yeah.
but
No, that's a great
it's
setup though.
okay.
Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's a good setup.
Yeah, and as I read the big book and everything in those first few weeks, it all resonated. And as I told people that I was an alcoholic and that I went to my first meeting and I got my chip, and people told me like, no, you're not. No, you're not. And I'm like, no, I'm pretty sure they're right. I'm pretty sure they've got this accurate.
Oh
Once I
yeah.
start, and as I worked with my first sponsor, because I struggled with this verbiage of powerlessness, because I'm like, because my ego was so big, I was like, I'm not powerless. I can, because I was so controlling, that I was like, I'm not powerless over anything,
Yeah.
um, and so she had to really break it down for me, like once I start, can I stop? And sometimes I would challenge myself to just have one. And then it was like, well, but after you have that one, how's the rest of your night? Are you thinking about how you wish you had another? And so it's
Oh
like, well,
yeah.
damn,
All
you know
night
what I
long.
mean?
Yeah.
So they had to really break it down for me. And then just the longer I stayed, well, one, I got better, and the light turned on. I had all these aha moments. I was on the pink cloud, I'm going around, I'm helping everybody and I'm holding the doors and I'm stopping on my way places to make sure the dog I saw on the sidewalk finds its owners,
Yeah.
like I'm doing all the things.
Well, you
um,
were caring about life. You started to care about life.
Yeah, and and there's things that I remember, and it's to me it's really important. You know, um my second meeting, this lady, she said, you need to take the cotton out of your ears and stick it in your mouth. And she's like, and I'm saying that in the most loving way possible. She's like, had I not been here yesterday to see you get your white chip, I would think that you know something. Right?
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, if she was probably younger, I probably would have had different feelings about it. But since she was like an elder, I was
Yeah.
like, okay, because I love my elders. Anyways, so and then she sat down, she talked to me about a higher power and all of that stuff. Because my skin crawled,
Mm.
with the mention of the word God and all of that stuff. At the end of my drinking, my mom told me that because I was really crazy, and she's like, Jessica Michelle, you need to go to church and find God. And my words to her was, there's nothing that God can do for me.
Mm.
And I don't believe that now. You know what I mean? I have a higher power of my understanding, but only because that woman sat down and she talked to me for almost 2 hours after my second meeting. And I went to some young people's groups and I followed them around like a lost puppy. After the meeting, I just stood there because I was scared to go home because I was terrified that I would end up at the bar or I would end up somewhere I didn't belong and doing things that I shouldn't be doing. So I would linger, Lou, and then we would go to Village Inn and we would stay there until a little after 3. And then I was able to get home without turning into the bar, turning into the ex-boyfriend's house, and there were times that I would drive the longest way back home, so that I wouldn't drive past those places.
Yeah.
Because I was desperate. I slept all day. I drank, until the bar closed, and then, and I would go to work in between. And and I was miserable and I hated my existence and I didn't recognize the person I had turned into.
Yeah.
But but the question that, like, recovery has given me my life back.
Mm.
And it's not perfect. It's not without struggles. It's not without grief and loss and sadness and despair. Um, but I haven't picked up a drink. And through all of it, my first year of sobriety, my sponsor died in my during
Mm.
my fourth step. And well, actually, just after my 1 year, she gave me my 1 year medallion, and then she passed away just before Thanksgiving.
Mm.
So so that sucked. And
Yeah.
I've gone through some sponsors. I've gone through some that aren't that great. That I've walked away from because I wasn't going to be spoken to the way that they spoke to me.
Yeah.
When you're new, it's important to we get stuck on things, so you have to be kind of patient.
Yes. Okay, good. Awesome. So just pick up where you left off. Sorry.
Do you remember where that was?
Yeah, you had been about we were talking about patience with sponsors and being new in
Oh,
the in into recovery.
oh yes. I was stuck on something that had happened at my work's holiday party. And, I was still in early recovery, so I was stuck on this thing that this girl did that I didn't agree with. And the sponsors like, you've been stuck on that for 36 minutes already, and it's so effing frustrating. I want to slam my head into the table. And that's the last time I ever spoke to her. And I let go of that relationship through an email,
Yeah.
and because that's just no, you know what I mean.
Yeah, that's not
So
okay. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but I've there's been so many aha moments too. One of my doctors, before I got sober, I think I was 27, my liver enzymes were elevated. And so my doctor's asking me questions about my drinking, which, how are you supposed to answer? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know how many drinks I have in a day or a week. Since when were we supposed to count that, it's ridiculous. I don't see anybody else counting their drinks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, anyways, so she set me out on this little task to keep a tally. I couldn't keep the tally because I'd get confused. Um,
Yeah,
did I
there you
mark
go.
this
Yeah.
drink or not?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Um,
I would probably do
so,
that the same.
anyways, fast forward a few years after that sponsor had spoken to me so poorly, I go to this meeting, and there's my doctor. Well, she's not my doctor at this point because she had moved on somewhere. There she is holding the door. And I'm like, I grab this other woman. What is she doing here? Oh, she's supposed to be here. She's one of us. I'm like, oh my God. You know what I mean? Because it freaked me out. And, she became my sponsor.
Oh,
And
that's awesome.
I worked with her for several years, until distance and whatnot became an issue, schedules and stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but it was so funny because I'm like, she knew, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
She knew. And I told her, she's like, well, you wouldn't have been ready to hear it. That's why she had given me those little tasks, right? And
Yes.
I was supposed to not drink for like a couple weeks due to like the medical stuff. And it was sufferable and stuff. So she knew that like I wouldn't have heard it, but
Oh
just
yeah.
how crazy it was to cross paths again like
Mm.
that, and then and there's just been other times that it's just been people placed in my path in the right moment. And you know recovery has given me most clarity. Right.
Mm.
um I'm not It's given me clarity for the most part, right?
Mm.
But I learned early on from my sponsor that passed away, more will reveal itself. And so there are things that still come to surface, that it's like, man, why wasn't this taken care of? Or why is this still the way that it is? And I just remember her telling me that, and then when I talk to other people, they're like, well, you just weren't ready. It wasn't ready for you then at that time, and it's what's ready for you now at this time, and
Mm.
so it's been great. I've bought my own house,
Mm.
I still have my job of I've been there over 12 years. I'm able to show up and be there for my parents, with everything that's been going on there, this last year, and a little over a year now. And that part, I mean, that, you know, it's so interesting because I was in a really, really not good place, not that long ago, just a few short months ago. And I mean, I didn't even want to go get my 9-year medallion.
Mm.
Um, just, I don't know why. I just, in my mind, I was going to go up there and I was going to get my medallion and I was going to be able to say something good, right?
Yeah.
Um, but the girl that presented me my medallion, she said all of the most nicest things that I was crying before I even got up there, and then it was a hot mess of me just crying, and it sounded so bad. To me, it was just, I was like, oh God, okay. So, but I was coming out of just being in a really low spot. I think everything from the last year and a half had finally come and it was just coming out of me. Um, last year in 2021, my dad started having some cognitive issues with behavioral changes.
Mm.
Also, everything that we've learned and looking back, my dad's bipolar. And I didn't know because I didn't know, and now there's all this stuff that I know more, and due to working on myself, I now know that I too
Mm-hmm.
am bipolar,
Yeah.
which I didn't know that.
Mm.
And So I've gotten outside help, this last year, but my coworker of over a decade, he died of COVID last year, and
Mm.
that was really hard, because we used to spend a lot of hours together, just him and I on a shift, talking. And he always gave such positive words of encouragement. And he was one of the first people that I told that I went to my first AA meeting,
Mm.
and
Mm-hmm.
he was always just really supportive. Um, and right after he passed away on Mother's Day, we have my dad Baker acted. And
Mm.
and my family and everything was just in turmoil and crisis. I didn't even have time to grieve my coworker because I was having to swoop in and intervene on this crisis that was happening with my parents, and trying to sort out what's going on here. Is it dementia? Like, what is happening? And then also, is it just my dad? Because this is what we know, these behaviors, right?
Yeah.
We grew up watching this toxicity, but I had already been observing the cognitive decline prior to all of that, and it was crazy. And he was Baker acted a second time, and they've been
Mm.
in an assisted living facility ever since. And it's been a struggle, and a lot of pressure has come onto me, and the transition from being the child to being more so in a responsible for my parents role. It it punches you in the chest. It it just it knocks you right in there, and it's like a wave crashing of everything. Everything.
Mm.
It's like this acceptance that you have to accept that this is what this is now. It's painful. They don't teach you this in school. Like, they don't prepare you
Yeah.
for when your
Yeah.
parents are aging. Um, and the totality of when things start to go downhill, and then I'm the youngest of four, and a lot of this has fallen on to me. and
Yeah.
actually the majority of it has fallen onto me. And I've always been the baby of the family, right? And so
Yeah.
now here I am in all of this. I'm hanging on to my recovery. I still work with my sponsor. I'm going to meetings and I'm crying, but you know, there's a reason we have multiple places to go to meetings. Because not every meeting are you necessarily going to get what you need
Yes.
from it.
Yep.
Now, you may be giving something to it, right, for someone else, and you don't know, but you're not always going to get what you need out of it, and it help you feel better on the inside. And I wasn't feeling relief anywhere. I felt so alone,
Mm.
and there were times that a drink is not an option. It is not an option. That is my motto from like the get-go. Like a drink is not an option. And see, there's no doubt in your mind when you just remove it off the table. It's not an option. And it's point blank, that just like that. It's not an option. So there were times where I was just in so much emotional pain this last year. I went into the laundry room. It's small. I shut the door, I locked it, and I just sat in there and I ugly cried and ugly cried.
Mm. Mm.
And then
Yeah.
I got on Facebook, and someone that I've known, he came in like a month after me, and he had put something on one of the Tampa, AA pages. And I read it, and it spoke to me, right there in that moment. And I was able to catch my breath, stop crying. I was gonna send him a message, but I have a hard time writing when there's so many emotions coming. I can't get my words typed out and it be coherent. So I ended up not messaging him, but it whatever it was in that moment, it helped me, right? And I mean, I was hanging on by the skin of my teeth, but not because I was thinking about a drink. I was thinking about how I wanted to be relieved of this pain.
Mm.
Um, and it got to the point where I contemplated putting my car into a pond. And
Mm.
that scared me,
Yeah.
and so I desperately start grasping for help, so I go to the Tampa Bay Fall Roundup, which is exactly where I needed to go. I heard the kind of sobriety that I needed to hear, and the woman that gave me my first big book, she was there with this other girl that I knew, which I vaguely remember our interactions, but I recognized her face. Um, but I started, the way I started viewing my recovery was that there was these deep roots that had grown up under my foundation, and they were starting to crack my foundation. And so I started grabbing at things from the building of my foundation, people who helped me pour the cement, and I've started talking with her at least once a week. We were gonna go through the 12 and 12 together, but that hasn't happened. And part of me is like, it's okay, because I've been doing these other positive things, presently,
Yeah.
to get my spirituality back on track. So I came across a spiritual center that I heard about from that podcast that I mentioned. And so there's one here in Tampa. I started going to spiritual center. I talk with that woman once a week. I still meet with my sponsor, you know, um, here in Tampa, for AA. I started also though attending Al-Anon, because I got so enmeshed in all of the stuff happening with my family that I got really, really sick, and I
Mm.
needed to learn healthy detachment and healthy boundaries. And it's just been on a Zoom call, but like these women and the things that they share, I just I'm just eating it up. And it's like, oh my God, this is what took me so long to come to Al-Anon, right? Which granted, uh, I'm a, what do they call it? A double winner, right? I'm duly qualified. Had I tried Al-Anon before getting sober, I wouldn't have heard anything. It wouldn't have done me any good,
Mm.
you know.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and then now, I'm sober, and the thought of a drink as a solution doesn't cross my mind, you know. But the emotional pain and turmoil it's still a thing.
Yeah.
So I've started doing these other things to get my spirituality back on track. I signed up for this metaphysical school, um, the University of Metaphysics and the University of Sedona. So I'm doing that. I'm going to get my doctorates in metaphysical sciences. It's interesting, it's different. But when I read up on it, I'm like, how have I not ever learned about this?
Sounds
How did I not know this place exists?
that's awesome.
Um, so the way I look at it is like this last year I died. You know what I mean? Not a physical death, but like a spiritual, mental, emotional death. And
Yeah.
the way I look at it right now is that I'm on the rise back from the ashes.
Yeah.
And I found myself a few months ago, before getting stabilized, with my outside help, therapist, psychiatrist,
Yeah.
and these other measures that I'm taking for myself. I've started walking like 2 miles
Awesome.
most every day. Well, it's a fight. Whatever the disease is, alcoholism, mental illness, doesn't matter. You have to fight back.
Yep.
You know what I mean? You
Amen.
have to change your diet. You
Yep.
have to do some exercise. You have to go dig and find whatever it is that will help you. You know what I mean? For the better good of yourself.
Oh,
And
absolutely. I totally hear that because I always tell people that recovery from anything, even like recovery from surgery, it takes work. To
mhm.
recover is a verb. So you have to actually do something to recover. You can't just lay around and rest. Like that's not going to do anything. You have to actually like participate and do it. Like go to the physical therapy or what you're saying. Like you got to go out, you got to
I did
find
that
the
too.
things. Yeah, you got to find the things that you need to be okay in life, but also to heal and get better. You need to find those things. No one's going to they're not just going to magically end up on your door. Like you got to go out and find them when you need them. And that's what you're doing, which is sounds awesome. Like
Yeah, I
I,
mean, it was dark, and
yeah.
I mean, I was crying all the time. And then let's just throw in there, I just turned 39 in September also. So on the 17th I turned 39, on the 29th I turned 9, right?
Yeah, well, on the
um
29th I turned 41. So don't even start
what?
with me. And on the 2nd I turned 6. On October 2nd I would turn 6 years old. So,
Aw,
yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. But the 39 though, being a female,
Mhm.
the hormones weren't helping any of this other stuff either, right? Um, so I was coming unhinged. So I got this giant U-shaped body pillow, and I was miserable. So the advertisement for this giant U-shaped body pillow is this pregnant woman, and look at her all pampered and so smiling and happy with her pregnancy and this pillow. And I was just like, screw that lady. I need this lonely, sad B word pillow, because I was just so miserable. I didn't like seeing anyone else being joyful. um, anyway, so I got the pillow, right? And that pillow, I'm really glad that I got that pillow. It gave me something to squeeze and hug, right? Because I could not feel comfort. Nothing that I did was providing me comfort. And, and sure as the hell I know that, I'm not going to get the ease and the comfort from the first drink. Like
Yes.
it may light my veins on fire, but then I'm going to burn the whole world down and I will be of no use to
Oh,
my
yep.
parents
Oh, yep.
whatsoever. um and I'll unravel everything that I've worked for, and that the gifts of sobriety and my higher power have given me, and you just don't, that's like decimating a grave or something. You just don't do it.
Yep.
Anyways, so I found myself hugging this pillow, crying the deepest of cries from the deepest depths of my soul. And the I mean, I haven't said this prayer, maybe only one when I got sober. I may have said it another time when I lived in St. Pete and things were really bad. Um, Living with a active alcoholic at the time. And so I don't remember if I said that little prayer then, but I definitely said it when I got sober and then just a few months ago. God help me, God help me, God help me.
Mm.
And then right after all of that was the fall roundup. The woman
Yeah.
who gave me
Awesome.
gave me the gave me the big book. Then they led me on to the women's Al-Anon meeting that's on Zoom. Then I looked for more Al-Anon material and led me to that podcast. That podcast led me to the spiritual center, and to the University of Metaphysics and stuff. And 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 I've just been doing that. I attend some AA Zoom meetings, and I go to more speaker meetings. I was asked to speak at two different meetings back to back, one of them being Saturday Night Fever, which is a really big meeting here. And then another one that was in front of, it was a lot of people from Salvation Army and different treatment centers. But in that meeting, I look up and I'm talking about my stories from high school, and the dry goods and all the dumb things that I was doing and the money I was stealing from people. And I look up and there's this girl from high school sitting right in front of me. Um it was and then I just wave at her. I just lift my hand and I'm like, because she knows exactly what I'm talking about,
Mm.
because
Mm. Yeah.
we were friends. We were in marching band together,
Yeah.
like, and here I look up and I'm like, it's a small world and you never know. You never know, one, who you're going to help, or two, who you're going to cross paths with in recovery. And you're like, oh shit, you too, you know?
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
so it's just, I mean, it's a journey, and it's true when they say it's not linear. And um and complacency is a thing, and resting on your laurels and all of that stuff. And when it gets uncomfortable, it's uncomfortable, and people either drink or they do something about it. Me, I don't want to drink, you know
Yeah. I
I'd
know. I.
rather
I.
go.
I know what that choice does in my life. I don't want that choice again.
Yeah, I mean, I quit smoking too. Like,
Oh
I
yeah. Me
quit
too.
smoking cigarettes in the middle of all that chaos last year. Like, I quit smoking in March,
That's incredible.
before our mutual friend had his surgery on his throat.
Yeah.
So I thought that it was because of smoking. So I did it. One, I did it in support because he wasn't going to be able to smoke anymore. So I was like, then I'm going to, you know what I mean? I'm going to back that by quitting smoking too.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And then also, I thought the boyfriend was going to quit smoking, which he tried, but he didn't succeed. I stayed the course though. But I had been praying and kind of prepping for it, anyways, mentally and stuff like that. So, and I haven't thought, I mean, I've had so many reasons to make an excuse to pick up a drink or to pick up a cigarette in the last like year and a half. I could
Yeah.
name off any excuse that I want. Oh, my coworker died.
Yeah.
or my dad was Baker acted, or oh, my parents are old and I'm sad, and I'm mentally emotionally a wreck,
Yeah.
and all of those things. But if we're in strong recovery and you build a good foundation, then and you truly get the step before the step, right? um the concede to my innermost self that I'm an alcoholic, right? And that there is no safe amount of alcohol that I can ever consume, and to drink is to die.
Yeah.
And you hold on to that, and that through and through. um and all this shit will pass, but it's hard and it hurts. I mean, I can't even put into words the depth of the pain and the grief, but I think it was everything finally coming out. I
Mm.
mean,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
I
absolutely.
feel like I finally grieved the grieves of all the grievances,
Yeah.
just a few months ago. And but I didn't pick up a drink. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's really all that matters. And I have sponsees, and I'm like, man, I felt bad because I was crazy. I'm losing it, and I'm trying to be this example. And the only example that I could be is that through all of this, I did not pick up a drink, you know? Um,
Which
and
is a
that's
great
really the,
example. And that's the only
yeah.
example that anybody needs is just showing that. And that, I mean, yeah, Jessica, what everything you said has just been so awesome because, I even relate it to my own story of after a year of sobriety, my now ex husband at the time, um, came and asked for a divorce.
Hmm.
And I'm like, what? Like, I mean, at the time I thought like things were better, but he, clearly it wasn't.
Hmm.
And what did I do? I went to a meeting and I put up my hand and I said, hey, this just happened and I don't know what to do. And I got help, I mean, it's the story, it's the story of like we got to do something. We have to get up because no one's going to do it for us, and we know what the option is if we go and drink. So, and we know it's not great, so we got to find another one. I mean, it like that's awesome. I'm so proud of you and all that you've done. Like,
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
It's
absolutely.
also it's also important to know, because when we're in the program and we're in different meetings, a lot of people got a lot of different views of what sober is, and some dangerously think that if you take mental health medications, right, that you're not sober, which is just not true.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're not doctors, so
Exactly. And you know what?
um
And everybody's program is their own program and they got to do it how they got to do it. And, no judgments about it is the way I look at it. Like, and people have got to definitely pay attention to what their doctors say regarding medical treatments. So, yeah.
yeah. Yeah, and it's not like I haven't been on anti-anxiety or antidepressants, before in the past, right? But you can't take stuff if you're drinking. It's not going to do any good.
Oh, yeah.
Then even when I got sober and I was still batshit, like I got put on medications and they had side effects, and I didn't like the results of those side effects, and that was making me miserable. So I went off of them, and I thought that I was okay, right? And like all is well. I'm not like, I don't know, I didn't feel like I was not well. And um and then this stuff that happened, right, just
Yeah.
it unleashed. And I'm like, okay, and now I've learned so much. And now I have a therapist and a
Yeah.
psychiatrist, and I'm stable, and I'm treating those things, and I'm treating my codependency, my control, my detachment issues, or my inability to detach
Yeah.
issues, along with the alcoholism, it all is under one umbrella of isms,
Yep.
you know.
Well,
So
Jessica, I'm really proud of you, and I thank you
mhm,
for doing this with me. I really do. Like, your story is so beautiful. So, and
mhm,
I know that there are going to be people out there who it really resonates with them. So,
okay. Well, I hope I answered all of the things that you would like to have in your podcast here.
oh, you definitely did. So, thank you so much. Well, I hope you enjoyed Jessica's story as much as I enjoyed talking with her. This is one of the most amazing things that I get to do is just talk with my friends and talk with other people in sobriety and share their stories and get the experience, strength, and hope out there to anybody who might be looking for it. But this just brings me so much joy to be able to do this week after week. So next week, we're going to hear from my new friend, Trip. Trip has also an incredible story of addiction, and his story is very different than the traditional story of maybe going to a 12-step group. So I can't wait for you all to hear that as well. So, as always, thank you for listening to the podcast. Please follow on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts, and remember to review and subscribe. If you are a sober addict and would like to come on and tell your story, I would love that. Or if you have any questions or are looking for help, reach out to. You can find me on my website, whyareyousober.org, or email me at sam@whyareyousober.org. You can also find me on social media like Facebook and Instagram. And with that, I hope you all have a wonderful week. And until next week, I'm wishing you peace, love, and a whole lot of joy.